Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambo. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. We're flying solo as of the moment. I would not be surprised if we're solo the entire show, as obviously it's New Year's Day. Everyone trying to recover. Completely understand that. I got the Sprite this morning. We're good to go. We're ready to roll, as we had a wild evening here at the Bailey Ranch where it was just me, the wife, and her mother hanging out and listening to listening to the festivities on TV, watching the ball drop, and just chilling. I was asleep by, I don't know, 12:45. So we're good to go here. Unlike Jacob, I think Jacob's probably somewhere like this right now. We don't know where he's at, to be honest with you. But I would say it looks something similar to that right there. Let's do this. Let's give a quick shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description to send you their website, theticketking.com. You can register there as a customer. Go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. I want to say this. Thank you to Ticket King. It's been an absolute honor partnering with you guys and gals this year. Going to be a playoff game after this week against the Bears as well. Don't know if that partnership will continue or not. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, man, it's just been an absolute blessing and an honor to obviously promote your product, promote your company. And they have been nothing but just a class act to us. Been, just like I said, a blessing to PTA and everyone here this year. So let's jump into the chat off the bat. We got a multitude of directions we could take the show today, and I thought we would do something a little bit different. And I know it's going to get pushed back. We'll talk about it here in a minute. I see we got a big super chat in here from Mr. Mike Everett. Good to see you, Mike. He says, just want to thank you. Just want to say thank you to all of you for the great content again in 2024. I know my comments can be more on the negative side at times, and I appreciate you all for putting up with me to spot that. Happy New Year. Mike, everybody fan's different, man. And listen, thank you so much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it, and you've been nothing but a blessing to us ever since we've met. You're always a super chat, and you're always donating to the show. And, yeah, you and I both recognize we fan two totally different ways. That's what makes the world go around, man. You know, all I ask is that if people are a little more on the negative side than the positive, just give me some grace and understand that I'm not going to press into that, because we get the most feedback we get is from people going, man, this is a breath of fresh air, being able to tune into something where someone's not ranting, they're not in a drunken rage, or they're not just spouting off emotional reactions to a game. And there's a place for that, man. Some of that stuff's highly entertaining. It's just not, it's not the way I fan. And Mike, I know Mike doesn't fan this way either. Mike seems like a calm, pissed off all the time, which many people hearing my voice right now could probably relate to that more than Clayton's approach, right? So everybody's welcome here. Again, just like I said, I want to make sure people are aware of why we take the show in a certain direction, because, you know, everything that we've done here, we've approached it from a standpoint of, man, I don't like that about that show. I would do this different, right? And what I mean by that is I'm not the person who's going to go on someone else's show and tell them, hey, this sucks because of this. You should do that different. I just don't have that kind of ego. But I always listen to podcasts. I always watch YouTube shows going, man, if I was doing it, I would do this different. I would do that different. So that's what we've done. It's essentially we tried to create the content that we wanted to consume. Little did I know that the byproduct of that would be I would consume less content from other people. Because when you do a show every day, and in our case, multiple shows a day, you do get a little burned out. So I'm finding myself when I'm not doing the podcast, because we're very, very research-based, right? And we want it to stay that way. I find myself wanting to unplug a little bit when I'm away from the show. So I didn't expect that to happen, but here we are. But again, Mike, thank you, buddy. And there's no reason to apologize or try to explain yourself. You fan totally different from me, and that's totally cool. And I really, really appreciate the donation there, man. You're nothing but a blessing to us. Thank you so much. All right, let's see what else we got here. First of all, let me kind of set the stage of what I've done this morning. And And I know I'm going to get pushback on this, and that's okay. I want to put a full disclaimer out right now. We're at the 5-minute mark of the show, so hopefully I haven't wasted too much of your time today. Today, there's going to be an injury report drop later today. There's going to be a Chicago Bears game that probably will mean nothing this week. We're still going to cover it. When the injury report drops, we're going to bring you that information. We're going to prepare for the Bears just like we prepare for every team all year long because the season is still going. The playoffs, guys, I am as excited for this playoff run as any playoffs I can think of that the Packers have been involved with. In the past, you've looked at the Packers being in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, and it's like, oh, God, I hope we don't lose. I haven't looked at this season that way. You guys have probably caught on all year long. I haven't been like, man, we can't lose this game. I hope we don't lose this game. For me, we've played from ahead all year long where it's like we're outperforming what my expectations of the team were as the youngest team in the league. So, the playoffs for me, this is like you're playing with the house's money this year, right? Youngest team in the league. I feel like your team got better this year. Obviously, your record's better. That's the other thing people aren't. It's kind of like the Jayden Reed conversation. Like Jayden Reed is having a better statistical year this year than he did last year. But some people are making it sound as if he's having a bad year. It's like maybe you put some unrealistic expectations on him. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. But that's just kind of how I look at things. So with that being said, when we're in this period of the season, I'm going to start to shift focus just a touch towards the off season. It doesn't mean we're full-blown off-season, the season's over. No. But today, what are we going to talk about? We spent an hour and 45 minutes breaking down that loss to the Vikings. If you watch that show, not because me or any of the guys are great, just what the tape showed, and we took the time to really dissect the tape, you know exactly what went wrong in that game. You know where the deficiencies are. You know where our strengths are in that latest division rival matchup. What else are we going to talk about? We just going to continue to comb through stats, right? So what I like to do is shift focus and go, okay, what are the needs that the fans think? Notice not here's my needs, and there'll be a time for that, but it's like, what do the fans think the biggest needs on this team are for next year? Now, with that being said, I know there's going to be people probably in this chat, and there's going to be people on Twitter with the Twitter polls who are going to complain, quit thinking about the offseason. Do me a favor. This is your disclaimer. You're not going to be interested in this show. Probably not going to be interested in it. The reason I'm doing it is the favor I ask you to do is just turn it off. It's totally cool. This is not going to be the show for you. It doesn't mean you got to go off about it and go on a little rant. And, like I just had a guy on Twitter just now. I'm like, bro, I don't know what to tell you other than unfollow me. Like, it's that simple. I see content on Twitter every damn day. You know what I do? I scroll right past it. Occasionally I go mute. He's following me. I'm following him. There's a mutual respect there, but I don't want to see that. I'm just going to mute that. Mute me, right? But what I'm not going to put up with is another grown-ass man climbing in the comments, climbing in my replies and going, you shouldn't do this. Okay, thanks, Dad. Bye. It's that simple. It's that simple. So anyway, we're going to kind of look ahead, and the reason being is the playoffs. This is the first year that they extended the college football playoff to a 12-team playoff. And immediately you get mixed reaction. I'm not a huge college football fan. You know that. I watch college football for the prospect aspect of these players coming into the league, right? And kind of being a little more prepared. People, well, that's too many teams in the playoff. That's not enough, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting back going, this is absolutely awesome. We get to see these kids on a national stage with real pressure on them, not a bowl game where it's like nobody's going to remember who won that bowl game. Nobody remembers who won the top 5 bowl games of last year that had no playoff implications, right? But the playoffs is like these kids, they're cementing their legacy, not just in college football, but they're showing NFL scouts, here's how I can perform with all the pressure in the world on me. That is a huge asset to a GM. One of the things that NFL general managers really key in on are third down plays, both on offense and defense, because that's when it's time to, hey, look, you got to show up or shut up right now. It's you as a defense. If we show up right here, we're getting off the field. As an offense, we got to find a way to move those chains. That's when you're going to find out a little bit of pressure, like a microcosm or a micro amount of pressure applied to a player in a one play of what could be 45 plays on their side of the ball or 70 plays on their side of the ball to say, all right, here's your chance to show that you're clutch in this situation. That's what you're getting in the playoffs this year. And I just think it's absolutely awesome. So that's why I want to spend a little time on it, if that makes sense. So I asked the question here in YouTube. I said, which defensive position does the team need to improve the most this offseason? Now, understand why you're probably thinking, Clayton, why did you start with defense? I put a poll question out on Twitter and I said, Packer fans, which side of the ball do you feel needs the most attention this offseason? Again, this isn't about me. This is about what the fans think the needs are, okay? And on Twitter, we've got 132 votes already, man. That's wild. 78% voted defense, 21% voted offense. So I went ahead and shifted onto YouTube and said, okay, cool. Which defensive position does the team need to improve the most? Okay. The options are defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, or cornerback. Now, obviously, you only get 4 choices that you could put in a poll question, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Why that is, I have no idea, but that's just the way it's structured. So I left off safety because I think everyone would agree we're pretty good at safety. When Evan Williams is healthy, we're good. When Evan Williams ain't healthy, if we bring back Zane Anderson, you're probably pretty good, right? Javon Bullard is he's proven that he's a little more valuable in the slot than he is a safety. But nonetheless, right now, defensive tackle is leading the way, okay? So defensive tackle is leading that poll question at the moment. We got a super chat here from Mike Evering. The offseason is all year long. Ask Scoot. And Mike, that's exactly what the point I was trying to get across is like, we're told as fans, you're not allowed to focus on the draft until a certain moment. You're not allowed to focus on free agency to a certain moment. All these things, right? And Tim, I see you, buddy. You take your time. I hop in whenever you want, man. Appreciate you jumping on here. So the reason we call this show Total Access is we wanted to create a show that was geared around what is the team thinking at this specific moment? What is Goody doing right now? What's the coaching staff doing right now? What are the players doing right now? And we want to bring you that information as much as possible, if that makes sense. So that's, again, going back to my original comment when I would listen to podcasts, what shows, I'd be like, man, I'm not interested in this. I'm not interested in what their favorite pizza is. I'm not interested in, the overall record of these teams and over the history of the NFL. That doesn't mean a damn thing to this year, right? Doesn't mean anything. And I darn sure don't want to hear the trivia sections of the show where they have someone try to answer trivia. It's like, this isn't the Price is Right, man. I tuned in to get some Packers content. So I'm with you though, Mike. We try to do it. We try to do these things year round. It's like, we're going to go from the playoffs and we're going to go straight into the re-signing period, right? Which basically means you're going to have some futures contracts that are going to reset for the Packers that are on the practice squad and whatnot. You'll sign futures contracts. Then you're going to get, all right, which players are looking to sign an extension, and you're going to have restructure dates as well. The restructure dates actually might come before then, where we're going to be looking at the roster and going, all right, which one of these players, which ones could potentially have their contract restructured, right? And then you go into free agency, then you go into the draft. But we're going to be covering draft all the way leading up to that point. And the draft is in Green Bay this year. That's what's wild about the fans being mad that we're even dipping our toe in the draft talk right now. It's just wild. Tim, buddy, have you survived the evening? I need to know. Are you good?
Man. Happy New Year. Happy to be here.
Happy New Year to you.
Figured I'd start the year off right, being late,
Hey, that's the way you do it, man. Reverse the curse. If you were on time all year last year and things didn't go your way, just say the hell with it. Let's start coming in late to everything, right? Let's do everything you do. Just don't be late for any appointments with the wife.
Trust me. Never that. We had fun last night. We had a great evening. I hope you guys did too. And I'm happy to be here. The coffee will kick in soon here, I promise.
I already had my cup of coffee, and I told everybody, Tim, this is all you need to see. When a man starts the day off a Sprite, you don't need to explain anything.
Right? Oh, I get it.
We're good to go. No, it wasn't too wild. It wasn't too wild. So we just stayed here at the house and hung out, much like what you did. But again, Mike, thank you for the super chat, man. Appreciate you. All right. So with the poll question, we could go a multitude of directions here. What I thought we would do is let's take a quick glance at the team rankings real quick, okay? Because we know when we play the Bears, there's a decent chance that those numbers get inflated. There could be garbage time, too. It might be a situation where we're actually getting beaten. Matt LaFleur says, you know what, let's just pull the starters. This ain't worth it. That could happen, too. So let's just take a look at the numbers here, all right? Points per game. And, again, Tim, I was telling everybody when I got the vote on Twitter there, I asked Packer fans, which side of the ball do you think needs the most attention this offseason? 78% is on defense, 21% is on offense. I thought it would lean toward defense, but I didn't expect it to lean that far. So let's kind of let's see if that checks out on this end real quick. All right. Green Bay in scoring points per game, they're 8th in the league, so a top 10 scoring offense. And you go points per play, just a little more detailed metric. Packers are 5th at 0.45, all right, in scoring. Rushing offense, yards per rush attempt, the Packers are tied for 6th, all right. Passing offense, yards per pass attempt. If I can get the ads out of the way. Yards per pass attempt, Green Bay is 5th. So you see all the way across the board with this offense, man, they are a legit top 10 offense, possibly a top 5 offense, okay? Now, when we go to defense, scoring defense, let's go to opponent points.
Oh, I hope Jacob's watching.
Yeah, opponent points per game, 6th. All right, so they are 6th. Then you go total defense. Let's go opponent. I'm sorry. Let's stay with scoring offense. Let's see if we can give him any out whatsoever on that bet with Emilio and be on his butt cheek there. Oh, no, they're 5th in points per play. Sorry, Jacob. As it sits right now, you're getting a tap, my friend.
I'm warming up the tat gun right now. Let's go.
Make sure that ink's fresh, Tim. All right. NFL opponents yards per play. Green Bay is not. Actually, no, they're not. They are tied for 5th in opponent yards per play. All right. Now, let's go to rushing defense. This was the pleasant surprise most of the year. Let's see if it hung on. It did. They're 4th in rushing yards per attempt. All right. And in passing defense, yards per pass attempt, they are now 15th at 6.6. Now, with all that being said, of every statistic that we just laid out, the one thing that was the worst statistic team-wide is definitely yards per pass attempt. So passing defense, okay? The run defense got significantly better, man. That fires me up. Again, you guys know we've been very vocal that we think that's a direct reflection of how we're rushing the quarterback. We're rushing a lot more controlled this year. You're seeing a lot of touch spy going on. You're seeing guys that are not being overly aggressive, rushing straight up. How many times have you seen this year our edge rushers run up the field past the quarterback? Think about that. It hasn't happened hardly at all, has it, Tim?
No, not really. JJ Enagbari once or twice, but that's just how he rolls.
Game, right? Yeah. So last year, you seen it. I mean, it was one of the top complaints from Packer fans last year was my God, how many times are we going to rush 9 yards up the field right past the quarterback and let him step up? You could tell that was a point of emphasis by LaFleur this offseason if you truly try to step back and read between the lines of maybe the adjustments that the coaching staff looked to make going into the 2024 season here. So, with all that being said, I would personally think that passing defense is our biggest weakness right now. Now, with that being said, here's the thing. You've been without Jair Alexander, right? You've been without Evan Williams. The coaches probably have access to information through their analytics department to know how well this defense has performed when all their starters are on the field, or at least a good chunk of them, right? They'll probably make the decision based off of that more than just these global numbers that we have access to here on teamrankings.com. So, with that being said, though, I do feel comfortable saying that's the biggest weakness of this team, and it doesn't worry me too much. We haven't given up a whole lot of explosive plays this year, right? And you guys know that's, in my opinion, the most important aspect. But if there's one part of the game you want to button up on defense, which is the direction the fans steered this conversation this morning, I would say it's that. Tim, do you disagree with that? Do you think we should be more focused on run defense or pass defense? Do you feel like that's what we've seen this year? What's your take on this, man?
I think the run defense has improved, and I feel like, no, if anything, I think you're right. We need to look at our pass D a little bit. The explosives have been pretty much limited, but, man, when we've had them, they've killed us. Mm-hmm. And that's usually what they do, right? But I also think that there's depth on this team in that secondary that, obviously we're not just going to focus on the secondary, right? Pass defense is bigger than just your corners and your safeties. But I would agree. And I think, hey, what a great time to, improve your run defense when the league is slowly starting to trend back towards maybe pounding the rock a little bit. And you're seeing teams run the ball a lot more. So I'm all for it. Now, it doesn't mean, throw the pass defense out the window and be terrible at it. And I don't think we are. But it can be frustrating when you're not letting teams take the top off you, and then they dink and dunk you to death and beat you over the middle all night because your linebackers aren't covering very well. So I think as a whole, I'm very happy with the run defense. I'm also happy with the pass defense, but there could be improvement. I think that would be the area. Besides, obviously, I'm with you. Defensive tackle all day. We need guys in the trenches, but I think we have to look at our pass defense as a whole and try and get better.
Yeah. And again, understand, just because we say defensive tackle, and again, the YouTube votes here, defensive tackle was running away with it at 64%. Then you got cornerback at 24%, defensive end at 9%, linebacker at 3%. I appreciate y'all voting. If you haven't voted, go vote here on YouTube real quick for us so we can get your voice heard. We're not saying hell or high water, you draft a defensive tackle in the first round, right? But what this typically means is, let's say that Goody sees this exactly the same way we do. He probably doesn't. You know how this goes. But let's say he does. He's going to allocate as many resources as possible to making sure he combs through all of college football to scout interior defensive linemen and go, okay, we really need to hit on a defensive tackle. Now, history says Goody likes to take multiple swings on those positions of need. Look at the safety room last year, right? You swung on two. If you'd have been satisfied with Javon Bullard, and listen, we would have been. I want you to hear me out clearly here. The draft process last year, Bullard was that guy that I don't think there was anybody as a host on our show going, I really don't like him. We were like, that dude seems like the dude. That's the one we want. So when they drafted him, we lost our mind.
Yeah, we were fired up.
They go get Evan Williams, and I'm looking at Evan Williams going, yeah, I mean, he's great against the run. He's aggressive, but I don't see anything on tape with him making plays in the passing game. And all 22 is so hard to get a hold of in college football, so you got to go back and try to watch the telecast and see if you see anything. Long story short, they draft Evan Williams. They traded up to get him. Evan Williams ends up beating Javon Bullard out for the starting safety job. Right? Crazy. That's the perfect example of why you take multiple swings. So just because we're saying defensive tackle is the top need, if that is the case, that's great. But Goody may look up and go, yeah, we don't have really a first-round grade on any of these guys. So we're going to take a couple swings in the back half of the draft, and that's where you land people like Zach Tom. That's where you land people like Rasheed Walker. Carrington Valentine, who in my opinion is really stepping up. If Carrington Valentine hadn't played the way he has the last 3 or 4 games, I'd be going cornerback might be more of a need than defensive tackle, just because it's that depleted if Ja does not return. And that conversation's getting really loud right now. I'm not going to dip into it until we get more info, but there's, people that cover the team that are there every single day in Lambeau, and they're really steering the conversation towards there's something else going on behind the scenes. I'm not going to comment on it too deep until I know, hey, all right, here's the story. This came from Ja. This came from his agent. This came from the team, what have you, right? But I will say this, the people that are talking about it, they got a pretty good track record on getting the stuff right. And as a fan, I've been as guilty as anyone going, ain't nothing there. There's nothing there. And then you look up and he's suspended. I go, oh, must have been something there. So we'll see. Drew D says 2.7 yards per carry last week rushing. Seattle didn't run much either outside that one big run by Charbonnet. Great point, Drew. So I don't look at this run defense and think, oh, crap. And I think you agree, right, Tim? That's what we just pretty much established. So,
oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. So with that being said, let's go to Twitter real quick. And the Twitter poll question, obviously we said which side of the ball. You can see it's up to 76.6%. People said defense. So we're all on the same page there. Tim, do you agree with that? If you had to pick, and again, that's how we're asking the question. If you had to pick offense or defense, which side of the ball do you think needs more help? It's tough.
It is. I am going to lean with the crowd and go defense. You know how I roll. Can always get better on defense.
Yeah. And, if you're one of the fans that's hearing my voice and you're going, man, look at what we did offensively against the Vikings. We couldn't get anything together that first half. I understand that. I do. But I'm not going to make a decision, me personally. It doesn't mean I'm right and anybody else is wrong, but I would not make a decision personally that here's where the need is based off of our last game. It's the season as a whole.
It's the season as a whole, right?
Yeah. So, and again, it's kind of been uncovered. They caught us off guard playing a lot of 2-man under. It is what it is. So you want to put that on the coaches, that's cool. I still seen throws that Jordan could have made. I seen Jordan reading the defense late. I seen a couple balls that Jaden Reed could have caught. I seen a couple plays on defense that Javon Bullard, was late to the point of attack. We seen a couple of flags go the wrong way for us that were definitely questionable. We seen penalties emerge. There's a lot that goes into it, right? You're never going to hear us on this show go, that dude's the reason, get him off the team. We're just not
right.
doing that.
Right. There's plenty of other shows you can find out there that'll do that if that's what you're looking for.
All right. So here's what I said. Packer fans, which offensive position, I meant to say, do you think? I was still trying to get the coffee in there. Do you think the team should improve the most this offseason? They're saying wide receiver, then offensive line, then quarterback, then tight end. Now, keep in mind, quarterbacks.
Really?
Quarterback's 5.9%. You're going to have some people that go, yeah, I'm clicking quarterback.
I'm shocked at the amount of people that voted wide receiver. I would think that's one of the strengths of our offense.
When I woke up this morning, Tim, I have felt the same way all year long. But when I woke up this morning, I'm getting that cup of coffee brewing, and I'm thinking, man, what on offense, what would my answer be? Would it be O-line? It definitely wouldn't be running back. I did not even include running back. That's the one position group I took off. I can understand both wide receiver and offensive line, and I immediately, my focus, Tim, it went to wide receiver is the last piece you put in place, right? That's Bill Walsh 101, how to build a dynasty. Michael Lombardi, Bill Belichick, the whole 9 yards. That's the last piece you put in place. And I went, are we there? Are we that close that if we did put, this is the time that Bill Walsh talked about putting that last piece in place, now you can go get you a big wide receiver. Are we there? The only thing that's keeping me from saying yeah is we need a great 3-tech defensive tackle. If it wasn't for that need, I would say, all right, let's get really aggressive and go try to find a Devontae Adams top wide receiver to put that last piece in place. But that defensive tackle spot is just it's a glaring need to me. It is. And I think I would even put edge defender over wide receiver as well, just because, yeah, Brenton Cox Jr. stepped his game up. We know Gary's had a down year. He still pretty much leads the team in every statistical category other than pressure percentage, which Brenton Cox Jr. has passed him in, albeit a lot fewer snaps. LVN has taken a step forward too, but it's that important to have a solid defensive line. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have two guys that the offense needs to consider Tuesday players. I'd love it to be a 3-tech and an edge, but if you're saying there's no 3-techs in this draft or free agency that we could get to do that, but here's this edge defender you can get for a decent deal, and he's going to be a stud, I would go with that edge defender, over a wide receiver. Anyway, it was interesting though, and again,
I'm with you. I feel the same way, and when I look at offense, I think center. I would have probably voted O-line here.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to click on this poll yet, but yeah, that seems to be a need. I hear you though with the wide receiver talk though, like sprinkling in a bona fide, number one, and hey, that might be Christian Watson for all we know. He might be that dude. He might get a truckload of money, and we have to see a few other guys walk, and maybe we go to the draft or see yourself getting better constantly at that position group. But I think if Josh Myers isn't our center, I personally, how I feel. I hope it isn't Elton Jenkins. I hope Elton Jenkins stays right where he is, and maybe we, bring somebody else in to play center. But we'll see. I just, I feel like wide receiver would not be my first move on offense.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Tim. But like I said, I'm to the point now with this team that I can understand why fans would think we could put that piece in place now. Joyce Martha in the chat said, what position in the 2025 draft that are strong? We're going to look at the consensus big board here in a second, Joyce, and just kind of take our first glance at it. And that should give us an idea of if it's top heavy or not, like in a certain position. But I love what you said there. The reason I want to highlight this comment is because that's what it's about. It's more about best player available, no matter where you're picking. But again, when you identify your needs, that's going to determine how many resources you're allocating into. All right, here's the position we're really going to comb through with a fine-tooth comb. We're going to find every early gem, late gem in the draft and take multiple swings at that position. I hope they do that. But keep in mind, last year, I was hoping they did that with corner, and they didn't. Now, it is worth mentioning, the defensive tackle and the cornerbacks both play a role in pass defense. We just identified pass defense as the biggest the biggest weakness on this team. So if they would have addressed corner, right, maybe we're not looking at pass defense. Now, I know some people will go, yeah, but you would have a bigger hole somewhere else because you didn't address that. That theoretically speaking, yes. But Jordan Morgan, the rookie we drafted, could not completely beat out Sean Ryan this year for the right guard job. That's not to knock him. That's not to say he can't be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. That could happen, right? But in the moment, if you are going to look back, hindsight 2020, Cooper DeJean would have helped your pass defense immensely, right? But again, we're playing Monday morning quarterbacking, right? that's what we do, though. So.
And in his defense, too, I mean, we also asked him to play guard and not tackle. The guy's been a tackle his entire life.
Exactly.
And then he's dealing with injury in his rookie season. So he had the odds stacked against him. It didn't surprise me. What surprised me is how well Sean Ryan's been playing football. And that's a pleasant surprise when you're trying to work a rookie in and he's struggling and he's kind of banged up. It's a good thing that Sean Ryan stepped up this year. He's been, solid on our offensive line.
Yeah. Completely agree. Philip Rude in the chat says, don't put Adams out there, but I think he might prefer to play with Love over Aaron at the moment. I will say this. It's now being reported that Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers have had a falling out. Now, I don't know if I've seen Schefter or any of the big name guys report that yet, but keep in mind, they spread the news that the agents and the owner wants to spread. So this could be just rumors. You guys can confirm if you've seen in the chat, if you've seen multiple people report it. If you're asking me, would you bring back Davante Adams? The answer is yes, always yes, at the right price. If you think I'm going to pay him, $30 million, $20 million, whatever it is, if you can get him back here for the tune of $15 million against the cap, I would be okay with it because he can still play. And here's the thing. It won't be an offense where Aaron's trying to create an ISO play for him every single play, right? He would have to understand, look, fall in line. Let me give you an example. Some of the drops we've seen this year, some of the choice routes that might not have been ran just right? Davante Adams, you do not have to worry about that. You tell him, I want you on 12 and a quarter yards, and you better make your cut. He's going to do it, right? Is it my top priority to go get Davante Adams? Absolutely not. It sounds like, if that report is correct, you guys hit me up in the chat, Tim, if you see it come through, any answers, mark it. I'd like to see if there's any validity to that report, because that was wild. It's not surprising, but it sounds like Woody Johnson, if it's true, Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers have finally butted heads. Imagine that. Two guys who are extremely successful in life, who probably are the most successful person in each other's life. They don't have anyone they're probably going to for coaching at all. They butted heads. Surprise, surprise. So,
no kidding.
As far as Davante Adams, man, he had nothing but glowing things to say about the Packers this year, same as Aaron did. It doesn't mean we're bringing Aaron back, right? But the only way that Tay comes back, in my opinion, is if he were to go to Goody, right? He'd go to Goody and say, hey, man, I want to finish in Green Bay. I'll do whatever you guys need me to do. I bet Goody'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it.
I just think that's highly unlikely, though.
I completely agree.
It's just highly unlikely, but
Again,
how do you say no to Davante, though, right? If that did happen, yeah, you're right. You got to start looking at the roster. You got to start looking at your cap, and you got to at least try and figure out a way to get him here if he expressed that interest and was willing to, take a team-friendly deal. Another thing I don't see Davante doing. But hey, crazier things have happened in this league for sure.
And that's why it's like, all right, give me a deadline. And by deadline, I don't necessarily mean like a time stamp. Here's when it's got to be done, but a deadline from a sense of, all right, what exactly are you asking? If someone gave me details, hey, you give us a 5th round pick and we'll cover this much of his salary, and we end up with, let's say, $10 million on the books for Davante Adams, I'd be okay with that. I'm good with that. I just don't see it shaking out, like Tim said, that way.
Talk about Jets receivers that may not be there and may be available. Packers Kingdom, Garrett Wilson, ?
Garrett Wilson, it sounded like and again, this is all reporting, a couple weeks ago, there was rumors that he said he would not return to the Jets if Aaron returned to the Jets. So now all of a sudden the report comes out that Aaron and Davante might be moving on. That kind of makes me think Garrett's staying. You see what I'm saying?
I get you.
And honestly, if I'm the GM of the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams came to me and said, hey, look, yeah, we want to stay, and Garrett Wilson said, man, if they're staying, I'm leaving, I would probably lean toward Garrett Wilson because he's younger. To me, you're going to get a lot better football out of him moving forward. It was obvious that the attention immediately went to Davante Adams as soon as he arrived. So this guy who was considered a top 5 wide receiver in the game all of a sudden became irrelevant, right? So I would have leaned in that direction too, although wide receiver is the last piece you put in place. I also wouldn't rule this out. In the back of my mind too, as a business owner, I'd be going, man, he came to me and said, get rid of them or I'm gone. I'd probably go, you know what? I'm going to get rid of them anyway, but I'm going to trade his ass too because we ain't there yet, and we need pieces. We need pieces in the trenches. We need a franchise quarterback. A lot more needs than wide receiver. I could see that being the case. Watch them all 3 not be on the team next year. It'd be wild, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you're talking about, well, first of all, we're talking about 3 players that command massive contract, right? These are like big money players here. So absolutely. I think both of those scenarios are possible.
If I'm running the Jets,
all of those guys could end up not being Jets. Next
if I'm running the Jets, man, I've got 2 top priorities. There's 2 things that I need. I need a head coach and I need a quarterback. Nothing else matters. Everything else is on the table to be sold, period, case closed. Because until you have those 2 pieces, you don't have a shot in heck. Now, you can have a very good quarterback and an elite coach and get the job done. You can have an elite quarterback and a very good coach and get the job done. But you ain't going nowhere with a good coach and a good quarterback. It just ain't going to happen.
Yep.
You got to have one of those 2 have got to be like one of the best it's what history says anyway. Just so happens the Kansas City Chiefs have both, right? They got a GOAT coach and a GOAT quarterback. So they got it figured out.
And they invest in their trenches too, right?
Yep.
O-line and D-line.
Definitely. Judy says, if you want to make our offense extremely high-powered, T. Higgins is out there. I don't think we should get him, but I wouldn't be upset. Yeah, T. Higgins is a player. He's a true – I feel like he is a true number 1 wide receiver in most places. He's kind of if I remember correctly, a bigger body guy, kind of contested catch guy. I'd have to look at his blocking. I'd have to look and see, okay, does he truly fit what we do? But that price tag, again, you're willing to overpay for great. You're not willing to overpay for good.
Yeah, might as well stay with Romy Rome. You know,
is T. Higgins great? That's the question, right? And I think most people would say he is, Tim. They would. But for me on the surface, without digging too deep, Drew, my answer would be no. But you're kind of – that's the type of conversation we're talking about too, though, right? Like if it is truly the last piece you put in place. And here's the thing. Like it wasn't the last piece that Ted Thompson put in place when he won a Super Bowl, right? It wasn't the last piece that Ron Wolf put in place when he won a Super Bowl. Who was that receiver they went out and got and that put him over the top? So just because Bill Walsh, that's something he said, it doesn't mean you have to do it. I think that comment from his book is more along the lines of, unless you got everything else in place, there's no reason to go overpay for a wide receiver. It's more along that vein, if that makes sense there. So, all right, let's move up. I said, Packer fans, which defensive position should the team improve this offseason? So, again, this is Twitter. This isn't like necessarily our viewers, our listeners, right?
Of course, Twitter doesn't vote for defensive tackle. Of
right.
course.
Twitter says linebacker, 7.4%. Agree with that. That should be the least one, right? Again, the only position we left off here was safety. They went defensive tackle only 8.3%. Now, keep in mind, defensive end, they're saying 31.8%, right? Wow. They're constantly complaining about the pass rush, right? And it's always the defensive end. And you never even take in consideration having a 3-tech opposite of Rashawn Gary.
A pass rushing 3-tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Just really an all-world 3-tech. You know what I mean? Like he's just a dude that he's a Tuesday player. Now, again, they're not growing on trees, but until you start really, really, really start trying to find one, we thought we had one in Devontae White. He was having a heck of a game, albeit just 12 snaps there on Sunday. But it's just, to me, he has not proven he is the well-rounded true 3-tech, and they played him at 3-tech a lot this year. Kenny has played a lot of 1-tech, kind of taking on that double team and eating that double team and then kind of playing that touch spy type thing, which is why his numbers have dropped, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he's played great outside of that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying That's what's shown up on tape. If you see it, you got to say it. You guys know I was not a fan of extending Kenny. I was not a fan of that. All year long, I was like, let him play the contract out, let him test the market. If it makes sense, bring him back. But to me, you cannot pay him like he is a top defensive tackle in the game. That's just my personal opinion. We did that, and here we are again going, man, we need a 3-tech. So, but again, Twitter disagrees. What they're saying is cornerback, 52.5% corner, 31.8% defensive end, then defensive tackle, then linebacker. So they're saying hands down corner. Here's the deal, Tim. If you're telling me you can go out and get a top 5 or a top 10 caliber slot corner, sign me up.
Yeah.
Bullard has been better in the slot than safety, but that doesn't mean he's been great in the slot. Okay. Nobody's here saying, man, he's played great in the slot.
Yeah.
So if you can go get me a solid slot corner, yes. Now, some people would say, what if we get an outside corner and kick Keyshawn to the slot? To me, Keyshawn plays better on the outside than he does in the slot. And I could be wrong. I could be in the minority there. But what do you think about corner here, man? What's your take on it?
I think that's fair, especially if we're talking this season. I think Keyshawn has looked better on the boundary, and that kind of took us by surprise a little bit. And I think Bullard playing in the slot, I don't know if that's the long-term plan, as far as their vision for, where he's going to be on the field. So I think you can get better both ways, right? You can get a slot, and you can also look at possibly adding another boundary guy just to keep your depth going. And again, the big Jaire question mark, we don't know. And, if he is, in the fold next season, which he should be, but how much, right? How available are you? And so you have to think about, you almost have to assume, him not being on the field, whether he's on the team or not. We have to look at, how we're going to get better on our pass defense. And, I don't know. It's a question mark because I feel like Bullard's been at the slot just because that's where he plays better. And I don't know if that's the long-term plan for him. But I do like Keyshawn on the boundary. I do. And I think, him and Jaire with Carrington Valentine, that's a good look. Now you're feeling good about corners. But then again, how much time is Jaire going to see the field? Also, other guys get hurt too. At what Eric Stokes' career got destroyed by injury, basically. I mean, it happens. So I think you got a lot of question marks there, but my approach would be, let's get better as many places as we can and try to prioritize our needs as they pop up. But I don't know. It's a tough call, Clay. I'm definitely still in the when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, though. I want trench warfare though first. I will definitely say that. Bring me a defensive tackle.
Yeah, the chat, Coach Lynn says, do we need to trade Ja? I don't think anybody truly knows that, Coach. No one who's not, behind the scenes knows if there is a rift. We don't know. We're going to find out this offseason. I think we would all agree with that. We're going to find out real quick.
Tough trade to get together with his contract, though, right?
Contract, injury,
yeah.
And that's the thing. I know immediately people I think it was Joyce actually asked, J Dome said, what could we get for Ja, third rounder maybe? And then Joyce said, I believe that I heard that wide receiver strong in the draft. I thought she had made another comment. I could have overlooked it. I apologize, Joyce. But they were asking, what could we get for Ja, right? So with J Dome asking that, what could we get for Ja, third rounder maybe? You got to go off precedent, right? When was the last time a cornerback was traded and how much did we get? Listen, our boy Rasul Douglas was our highest graded corner when we traded him.
Yep. He
went on to Buffalo and balled out that year. What did we get for him, Tim? You remember?
Tucker Kraft.
So we got a third round pick. Based off of that precedent, I can't imagine we would not get a third round pick for Ja, right? Ja should be significantly higher in terms of draft, or not draft capital, but trade capital. But I don't know. Man, because there's been times that I'm like, I see a trade go down and I'm like, they only gave up a fifth for that guy. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that stuff happens. If you're saying a third, hey, look, would you take a third for Ja? Not if he wants to be here and he's healthy.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to draft a player in the third round. That's essentially, people don't like to talk about this, but when you revisit trades, you got to look and go, okay, that trade is complete now. Who did we get for him? right? And in that case with Rasul Douglas, you got Tucker Kraft. Give me that trade. I like that trade.
Yep.
I do, right? But I'm not going to sit here and be arrogant and conveniently, overlook the fact that we're talking about passing defense as our big weakness. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you still had Sewell and he was still playing at that level, a lot of ifs there. I got you. Would your pass defense be better? Possibly. But with the Jaire thing, man, it just gets down to, if it was one season, Tim, I would go, no, ain't nothing to worry. That's what we were saying the first season he was hurt. But now we're talking about him playing close to, less than 50%. I want to say it's about to dip under 40% of his last 33, 34 games, whatever it is. Man, that's not money well spent. It's just not. And it's not to say it's his fault, but it does kind of feel like the way that was being reported by Rob Demovsky, and I don't want to put words into his mouth. You go read the article. You go listen to any podcast he's been on. It kind of feels like the team, like the coaching staff, maybe thinks he should be ready, but Ja doesn't think he is ready. Is kind of reading between the lines is what I'm getting. But again, he didn't pass the mile.
I'm not a doctor.
He didn't pass the mile per hour test. And then Matt LaFleur said that Presser, there was swelling in the knee. Now, when people told me in the chat there was swelling in the knee is what Matt said, I immediately went, okay. So there's no rip. But then when I go back and listen to it and hear the reporters talk about how they asked the question leading up to it, I went, does kind of feel like there's something there behind the scenes. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not Dr. Phil either, right? But as far as a third rounder, if you're telling me it's going to be a healthy Ja go out there and play top 10 cornerback football for a third round pick and he's going to play for someone else, no, sir, I don't like that trade. But if it's going to be, hey, the situation we're dealt right now, not knowing if he's going to be fully healthy, right? One thing about it that we do know is when he's on the field, Tim, he's still Jaire Alexander.
Yep.
We've seen that this year. He's going to take chances and blow coverages. That's going to happen. He's going to do goofy things, or as Matt LaFleur would say, wonky things. But at the end of the day, man, he can still play. There's no doubt. But that's going to do it for hour one. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side. We'll continue this conversation for hour two. We appreciate y'all. All right, welcome into hour two. We'll just keep rolling with this. Again, the chat's lit up. Everybody seems to like this conversation. I think it is one we need to have. I hope we put out that disclaimer. This is what the show is going to be today. We're thinking ahead a little bit because there's nothing to talk about today. I told before you got on the air, Tim, I said we spent an hour and 40 minutes breaking down the loss of the Vikings. It's okay to talk a little bit about this coming off season. You know what I mean? Mike Avery with the super chat says, comes down to, do you trust 23 to be healthy? That's it. And it's such a hard thing to predict. It really is. That's why I think the contract, if you're going to stay with Ja, the contract should be adjusted, give him a little bit more guaranteed money, shave a good chunk off of the salary cap, the overall value, and maybe you throw a couple incentives in that restructure that, hey, if he is on the field, he's going to get paid like a top cornerback. If he's not, we're protected. I just don't see him in his representation doing all of that, right? Why would he? So, but again, the majority of the guaranteed money is gone now with Jaire's contract. If you just got rid of him outright, you're freeing up $6 million in cap space this year. So there's no longer you're upside down in that acquisition.
I just don't see that being a likely thing, though. Do you think they're just going to cut him just to save the money and not get anything?
I don't see that either, Tim.
Yeah.
I think there will be a long, healthy negotiation to free up, $2-3 million in cap and keep him on the roster because he's that valuable, as opposed to just cutting him outright and freeing up $6. That's kind of how I see it, but I could be wrong, man. Hey, day one of the offseason, he may be gone. We don't know, right? They could also watch them extend him.
Yeah, right.
Give him a 2-year extension, a little bit more guaranteed money, and they just double down on it. I wouldn't be surprised there either. Mike, thank you for the super chat, buddy. As far as it coming down to you trust that he's healthy or not, that's the tough question, man. There's no way of knowing. J-Dome in the chat says, I believe Jason Wilde asked Jaire if he had a minute to talk, and Josh said he had to go. Dodging questions, I guess. Okay.
Dodging Wilde, probably more realistic.
And listen, I like Wilde. I try to watch their show every day. I know a lot of fans, he rubs them the wrong way, and I get it. But, what Tim said right there, some of the way that the reporting happens, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but I can understand why players go, I don't want to talk. So
maybe John just figured, go ahead and start asking your question, and I'll pop back tomorrow when you get around to your question, and then then I'll be able to talk to you.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to turn it to a Wildy roast fest, but he definitely asked long questions. And I feel like we're not out of line even mentioning it because
no, and we're not picking on Wildy. There's plenty of media members that those guys probably feel the same way about, right?
Yeah. Mark Tauscher gives him hell over the length of his questions. So if Mark's doing it, I just feel like it's at least okay to mention it, right? Let's see here. Drew D says, well, we'd save the $16 million from 2025 and $18 million from the 2026 base pay as well. Yeah, Drew, one thing I've noticed about you and I, we look at the salary cap a little different every year. I look at, when we have these conversations, I know there's a post-June 1 aspect as well. I like to keep things very simple and just say, okay, how much are we saving if he's not on the roster? Because to me, it's not about what can we free up in the future. That cap space in the future doesn't make a hill of beans to me. Like, we know, let me give you an example. And I know you didn't do this, Drew. I'm just talking about people in general. Yeah, and there's a couple on Twitter that think they're the God's gift to salary cap analysis, and they're the ones that are salary cap doom and gloomers until all of a sudden the next league year hits, and then they kick that doom and gloom until the next year, right? And that just drives me crazy. 2 years ago, it was, we got to clean up this cap space. We got to clean up this mess. We got to clean up this mess. We got $62 million or whatever it is in cap space. It's not going to be that big of a number. It's probably going to be closer to 40 by the time we get to the offseason. And then again, even at that point, you're probably not going to spend more than 20. So it's not as huge as you think, but still, you can make the cap work. The question, this is what Ted Thompson says. It's kind of like the draft too, Tim. When they drafted Clay Matthews, they had to trade up and get Clay Matthews. They went and I can't remember who he was talking to within his front office, but he says, yeah, I want to make that trade. And they're like, well, it's going to be hard to make that trade. And Ted looked at him and said, I want the player. That's what he said. And the guy, okay, we'll get it done. So they got the trade done. So it's all about putting the best product on the field, period, case closed. So when you're looking at, 2 years out, a year and a half out, that's not helping your roster right now. You're thinking, well, we need to free up that cap space on down the road. If you've got a legit Super Bowl contender, I'm totally cool with that mindset. But for me personally, it's about this year. You're going to be fine next year. I don't even know how much cap space we got next year. It probably drops down with the Jordan Love contract inflating a bit. But put the best 22 on the field that you possibly can. But under the guidelines of you never overpay for good. You can overpay for great, but you never overpay for good. Period.
Yep. And keep in mind that like we always talk about that 20 to 25 million or whatever that Goody likes to keep, on the table. He likes to have that little wiggle room cap space too that you have to account for. So there's multiple ways to approach it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. J Dome said a follow up. Jair engaged Wildy first. They were chatting. Then when Jason asked if he had a minute, Josh suddenly had to go. So he was nice to Wildy. I'm glad you specified that because that did make it kind of sound like he was like.
Where is this coming from though? Like, J Dome, can I borrow your media credentials? I want to get in. I want to get in the building.
This is coming from Wildy because he did mention this on his show.
Oh, Wildy said that he was talking with Jock. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
This all happened that way. Yeah.
I thought J Dome was like our inside connect.
So no, he's obviously been watching Wildy and Tash, and again, I've usually got stuff like that on the background, so I'll catch bits and pieces, and the chat keeps me informed. It's absolutely awesome. All right, let's see.
That's exactly what we were talking about, though, right? They were chatting, and all of a sudden, Jair was like, "You know what? I gotta go."
They were probably having a good conversation, like, "Hey, man, you got a minute to talk about?" Hell no, I'm out.
Nope, sorry, I can't do that. See ya.
Yeah, because he did that before, and he got kind of got in trouble here.
Yep.
I'm going to mark that. I'm going to come back to it. He said, J Dome says, follow up. Wildy mentioned it on Wildy and Tal show. There you go. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. You're the man.
Yeah. Love it. All right. I love this conversation, man. Everybody's lighting the chat up. This is great. Joyce Martha said, is Myles Garrett or Max Crosby a 3-tech? They are not. Now, listen, Myles Garrett's good enough. He could probably play anywhere.
He could probably play there, but yeah.
If you put 10 pounds on Myles Garrett, throw him in a 3-tech, I would be totally cool with that. It's just now we're getting into kind of fantasy football, right, yeah. Joyce? It's like now we're changing.
Crosby's more of an edge, right?
Yeah, Crosby I would never see as a 3-tech. Yeah. He's tall, lean. He's one of those guys that hearing Brian Bulaga and Mark Tauscher talk about, man, I would hate to have to block that dude. He's just kind of built. He's almost built like a basketball player, and and they were like, man, those are the toughest guys because they got the reach. And when you got 3 or 4 pass rush moves to go with it, it's an absolute nightmare. You got to be prepared to anchor for the bull rush, but man, they will put you on your face with a tug, rip and pull and all that stuff. And it sounds like in my opinion, he's more of an edge rusher than Myles Garrett, but both of them are edge rushers. They're defensive ends. I do think Myles Garrett could handle 3 tech. It's just not ideal, but Myles Garrett's one of those players that's, some would say he's a generational talent, right? Yep. If you told me, Clayton, we're not going to go get you a 3 tech, but we're going to get Myles Garrett to line up opposite Rashawn Gary, I would say deal, or as the kids say, bet, right?
Yeah,
because
the question is, does Cleveland want a corner?
It would be so stupid.
You trade Jair and bring in Myles Garrett.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like these teams, if they've got a good general manager, and they look at things the same way that like Bill Belichick looks at them, they're not looking to just part ways with a Myles Garrett, right? I know his name's been mentioned a lot. Maybe they will. I don't know. But they've got such a mess up there with the Deshaun Watson thing. If he's not going to play like a top quarterback, they are screwed for at least 2 or 3 more years. Yeah. But a very, very good question there, Joyce. To answer your question again, Myles Garrett, I think you'd have to beef him up a little bit. Max Crosby, definitely not, will be my answer. And I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how I see that. Drew D says, can we extend McManus already, please?
Yeah, let's talk about the serious contract stuff here. Let's get this guy signed. Give McMoney his money.
And then here's what we're going to do when we do sign him. We're going to let him kick a field goal. We're going to say, go out there and kick. I'm completely on board, Drew. He's shown enough. Now, listen, based off of how well he's played this year, maybe it's a perfect storm, and those numbers are going to come back down next year. Could be. You got to be prepared for that. You could extend him. He drops under 90% field goal percentage. You got to accept that. But I think gone are the days, if you do re-sign McManus, of missing the extra points, missing those chip shots inside the 40. You're going to miss 1 out of 10, probably, right? That's going to happen. But what else can you ask for? When you're inside the 50, 1 out of 10, like that 40 to 50 range. But inside 40, count it. Done, So, yeah.
And the occasional 55-yarder, too. Let's not forget.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a boot when he wants to and when we need him to.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Packer Scheme said, what about LVN speed to power playing inside, or do we just use Jair to trade up like a package? As far as LVN playing inside, I think he could do it. I think his skill set would suit him there because he does have that raw strength. He's got quickness on those TT stunts. You might beef him up a touch to put him on the inside, but I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're set on they want him to play edge. Maybe that changes in the offseason, right? That's the other thing, too, that, again, we're identifying the pass defense is probably the weakest spot on this team. It doesn't mean it's horrible. Like I said, they're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to that. But also, this is the first full year for Hafley to evaluate. Like we were talking about how we handle the offseason, right, and how we're going to approach this offseason like every other. Hafley came in, was hired, immediately watched the tape of all of his players, and gave feedback to LaFleur and Goody, like, here are the players I like. Here's what I like about this. Keyshawn was one that he said, really like that dude, like the tape. Let's keep him. I feel like that's worked out pretty good. And then also you got to think now you've got a full year of tape of them doing what you're asking them to do. How did they adapt to what you asked them to do? How did they adjust on the fly when we're put in a situation where we got to change things up? And now you got a true evaluation where he can go back to Goody and go, yeah, here are my key pieces. Maybe 3 or 4 of these guys, we can do without them. That could be the case. And who knows? Maybe this is the year we see those rare cuts where a player that played a significant role last year just gets cut outright and the Packers move on. It's been a while since that's happened.
Yeah.
One I think it was like Josh Sitton back in the day. That was so weird. They just cut him. It was like, what? So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that probably was the last time that happened, I think.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Let's see what else we got here. Let's do this since we're in this vein here. Again, just wanted to kind of really, if you haven't noticed, I wanted to talk it over with the other fans. Like, what are you guys thinking? Even on Twitter. And listen, I know Twitter, there's a good portion of these votes right here that aren't even Packer fans. They're going, what would be the stupidest vote? Let's vote.
Yeah.
That happened. But when you get in here, and we've got, I don't know how many people we got watching, 77 here on YouTube, and we got 248 on Twitter watching. When you do this poll question, I feel like it gets a little bit accurate depiction of kind of the fans that are in here, on a consistent basis. And cornerback has closed the gap now. Defensive tackle 46%, cornerback 37%, defensive end 15%, linebacker 2%. So that's how the poll sits right now. So as of right now, we're still defensive tackle, corner, building our needs going into the offseason. So let's this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up too, is today, guys, if you're not a college football fan, you want a reason to watch college football today, holy cow. Obviously, Penn State beat the brakes off Boise State last night. Boise State had the best running back in college football in Gianti, who's probably going to be going to the draft. I'm pretty sure he's eligible this year. He'll be entering the draft. But tonight, this is kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, make it a little easier. I don't know if I can or not, Tim. Let me try here. Oh, looky here, boy.
Here's the guy.
Technological advancements. All right, so obviously last night, that game between Penn State and Boise State in the college football playoff, Penn State won that game. Today at 1 p.m., actually, coming up here in just a couple hours, you're going to have Texas and Arizona State. So it's the number 5 seed against the number 4 seed. That's going to be on ESPN. All right. Then you've got in the 5 o'clock window, 5 Eastern time, Ohio State and Oregon is going to be a dandy. That should be really good. And then for the nightcap, you've got my Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Georgia Bulldogs going at it there as the number 7 seed and the number 2 seed. Oregon is the 1 seed. Ohio State is the lowest ranking remaining seed at 8, with Notre Dame coming in right behind them at 7. So there's going to be some good football. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because there's going to be a lot of players here that are going to be entering the draft that's going to be playing in these games, right?
Yep. Let's keep an eye on that Texas defense, shall we?
Exactly. So one of the things I did, and we're going to pop it up on the screen here in a second because we're pretty much done with Twitter after this, was I went through and kind of looked at the consensus big board, and the guy that's getting mocked to the Packers right now, and listen, guys, it's early. It's so freaking early. The chances of this happening is highly unlikely, but it just lined up with kind of what I'm looking at, what the Packers should do. Ohio State defensive lineman, I'll probably screw it up, Tyleik Williams, if I'm saying that right, is currently being mentioned as a potential draft target for the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so obviously it's this big boy right here. He is a monster. On the consensus big board, he's in the number 32 spot. He peaked at 25. Right now, his projection is number 24 with the Packers. Again, a lot of football left. We could go on and win the whole damn thing and be picking dead last. I hope that happens, right? Here is his PFF look here, if you can see this. I don't know if you can or not. So I like to look at the yearly grades. What I'm looking for is consistency. I'm looking for ceiling. Don't get me wrong. I want a guy in the 90s. But when you see a consistent grade like this, 2021, starting in 2021, 75.4, 80.9, 77.6, 78.5, solid player there, right? And again, that's just what the consensus big board has us looking at right now. The reason I mentioned that, Ohio State's playing today, 5 p.m. The reason to watch college football, as long as he's not hurt, I don't know enough about Ohio State. Do a little research, see if he's actually playing in the game, all that good stuff. But those are the type of players you're looking for on these teams. So
thick.
Yeah, there's a couple of these. Yeah, Philip Ruth, thick. He. There you go. Because again, what was his? 6'3", 327, Tim.
Yeah, let's keep an eye and see where he's playing.
Yeah,
exactly. Play a little 3-tech, and let's keep an eye out for it.
Bingo. So, with that being said, let's jump over to the consensus big board and see if we can match up some prospects that might potentially be playing today here in the college football playoff. Let's just go all first, all right? And let's look at the overall board. And again, this is the consensus big board. It doesn't mean this is accurately depicting which players are best.
Doesn't mean we're doing a mock draft this morning.
No, it does not, Tim. We're definitely outside of mock draft season. I'm going to fight that as long as I can, for sure. I like mock drafts too, but they lose their flair when you do them.
Yeah, we'll try not to do 600 of them like we did last year, right?
Exactly. Number one Packer fan said PTA needs to sponsor a bowl game. LOL, the PTA Cheddar Bowl.
I like it.
Yeah. It'd be the PTA Sucky Bowl is what it would be, right?
That bowl game would be played in a parking lot near you. With our budget, right?
You missed this too, Tim. When I got started earlier today, I told everybody Jacob probably won't be in here. He's probably laid up somewhere like this right now. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh!
Right there. I had to get the freeze frame just right too, man. With he's licking his lips, you gotta love it. So, and
Give me a heads up before you do stuff like that, Clayton.
if you ever want to use that one, Tim, it's tabbed under sexy kicker. All right, there you go. So just so you know. All right, here we go. Consensus big board. Number 1, Shadir Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. Number 2, cornerback, Travis Hunter from Colorado. Obviously, teammates. Travis Hunter won the Heisman. They've got Shadir going number 2 to the Titans and Travis Hunter going number 1 to the Patriots. I know Boston Connor on the McAfee show is excited about that. He wants Travis Hunter real bad. Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami. You talking about a guy who just rose through the ashes and really helped his draft stock this year. He's had a hell of a year. He's the 3rd best prospect. Abdul Carter, edge defender from Penn State. You got Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. His teammate, Mason Graham, defensive lineman from Michigan. And then you got Tataria McMillan. That's one of the players that one of our listeners said they really liked. He's a wide receiver from Arizona. Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. And then Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. And then number 10, Mikael Williams, edge defender from Georgia. Those are your top 10. Now, since we've talked needs here, Tim, you feel comfortable saying defensive tackle and cornerback are the 2 positions we've talked about the most, right?
Yep.
So let's hit it real quick. Let's see what the defensive line looks like. So when I say ranking, guys, this is where they're at on the big board. Number 6, Mason Graham, defensive lineman. These are all defensive linemen from Michigan. Number 18, Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Got to be careful when you got 2 teammates. Is one making the other look better, right? Because he's drawing attention. You got to really go look at the tape, try to find that information and make sure that one dude isn't winning just because he's always in single matchups because his teammates drawing attention away. That's what happened with Rashawn Gary and Chase Winovich. PFF said Chase Winovich was going to be hands down the better pro than Rashawn Gary. Winovich is out of the league. Gary's one of the highest paid edge defenders in the game. So number 24, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Number 25, Walter Nolan, defensive lineman from Mississippi. Number 30, Derek Harmon from Oregon. So remember, you got Oregon playing today, right? Look for Derek Harmon going against Ohio State and that solid running game they've got there, right? So look for him, defensive lineman, Derek Harmon for Oregon. Then there's Tyleik Williams right behind him. So how about that, man? You want a reason to watch Ohio State and Oregon today at 5 p.m. Eastern kickoff, so 4 p.m. Lambeau time? Go watch the 2 defensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles here for Oregon and with Derek Harmon and Tyleik Williams with Ohio State. That's going to be a lot of fun. Every snap of that game, you should have one of those guys on the field if one of them's not injured. If you guys know in the chat, fire away so we're not misleading anyone if they're not going to be playing in this game because of injury. But if they're both on the field, I'm going to sit down with a Daddy Soda and watch that one, Tim. It's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And
do
then,
a little scouting today.
Yeah. You got my boy Deion Walker out of Kentucky. He peaked at 16. He's currently sitting at 41. TJ Sanders from South Carolina. You got Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M in the 65 spot. Jordan Birch from Oregon. So there's another defensive lineman on Oregon's team, Tim. Jordan Birch. Might want to write that one down right there. Defensive lineman from Texas, Alfred Collins. He's in the 71 spot. He peaked at 60. And we'll just go top 100 and we'll end it there. You've got DeMonte Capehart from Clemson at number 89. And then let's throw in Nazir Stackhouse because he peaked at 87. He's sitting at 111. That's for Georgia there. So Georgia will be playing Notre Dame tonight. So you got a lot of players.
That's going to be a great game, Georgia, Notre Dame.
I hope so, man. You know,
in
the past, I live in the South, so I know how powerful the SEC's been for so long. In the past, it's like, man, does Notre Dame stand a chance against the SEC team? I feel like they probably got a shot.
They might have a chance this year.
And I think they've got their backup quarterback playing too. Georgia does, if I remember correctly. So you got to focus on stopping the run. Notre Dame's defense is solid, man. They really are. And if you look here, there's no Notre Dame players until 119 at Howard Cross. Now he peaked at 70. Might want to
look at the D lineman too.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I'm trying to think of the defensive lineman for Notre Dame that got hurt. You guys probably know it in the chat. It's escaping me right now. But Will Cross was hurt before, and that dude stepped up to the plate and really covered. Now he got hurt, and Riley, not Riley Leonard, that's the quarterback. Riley Mills, I believe it is. He got hurt, and now it's Howard Cross's turn to kind of, hey, you got to go in there and anchor this defense. So Howard Cross is one to watch in the night game for sure. So there's your defensive lineman. Anything you want me to scroll to here, Tim? Anything you want to hit it on the defensive lineman here?
No, I think that's a good bird's eye view here, right? Good first glance.
All right, so
We'll
like
get
I said,
more in depth as we go, right?
yeah, definitely got a few prospects to hit there. Now let's go to cornerback, since that was the other need. On Twitter, they seem to think corner was more important than defensive tackle. And of course, on our poll question here, it was the second most. If it'll load up here, it is spinning. Boy, I got this thing humming today. Let me close a couple tabs out here, see if that helps. There we go. All right, so obviously, we'll go overall rank. It's in the order of these players. Number 2, Travis Hunter. Number 5, Will Johnson. Number 20, Siobhan Revel Jr. Those are your top 3 corners as it sits right now. Travis Hunter with Colorado, they're not playing today. Will Johnson with Michigan, they're not playing today. East Carolina, damn sure ain't playing today with Siobhan Revel Jr. And then you got Benjamin Morrison. Now, Benjamin Morrison's been hurt all year. I don't think he's healthy. I want to say he's still out for the year for Notre Dame. I haven't followed too closely here lately. Like I said, I'm kind of a casual college football fan. I just get really interested this time of the year. But Benjamin Morrison at 26, see if he's playing or not. If he is, obviously you want to check him out, but I'm almost positive he's out for the year. Drew D did confirm that was Riley Mills. Good deal. Appreciate it, man. Somebody do a quick check. Benjamin Morrison's out, right? He's out for the year, if I remember correctly. If somebody will just do a check for us there. And Tim, if you'll help keep an eye on the there you go. J. Cole says Siobhan Revel is out as well. Yes, he is. They are not playing today, obviously, East Carolina. And that's the thing, like the beautiful thing about the playoffs, you typically get the starters playing in the playoffs. The bowl, sometimes you get those guys that are going to the draft that go, I don't want to risk getting hurt before the draft. So something else is kind of removed in that regard.
Playoffs?
Let us know about Benjamin Morrison as soon as you guys can in the chat, because I'm pretty sure he's still out. Yeah, he's injured. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Jaco. No, he's injured. I thought it was season ending, and he's been out pretty much. He got hurt early in the year, which probably why his draft stock hasn't taken much of a hit. Plenty of time to be ready for the.
Yeah, that's where you want to get hurt, right? If you're going into the draft, if it's going to happen, I would hope it happened early.
Yeah. You got Jahdae Barron from Texas. So in that Texas game, again, when was that Texas kickoff? Do you remember, Tim? I already closed
one. I think that was the.
Yeah, that's the early 1 o'clock. Yeah. So look for Texas corner Jahdae Barron if you guys want to check and see if he's playing or not. All right. Texas cornerback, JAHDAE BARRON, Jahdae Barron. All right. He'll be playing for Texas if he's healthy, I'm sure. Let's see. Yeah,
he said it was a season-ending hip injury. Yikes!
Yeah, it's dangerous, boy. Hopefully, he completely recovers from that. We'll find out at the combine for sure, right?
Yeah, right.
Trey Amos, cornerback from Mississippi in the 49 spot. Kentucky Wildcat Maxwell Hairston.
Hold on, Drew D with the important questions here. Is Trey Amos related to Adrian Amos?
Ooh, that's a good question. He may be. Might
have to do a little digging. Never know.
Yeah. All right. Maxwell Hairston for Kentucky cornerback, 62 overall. He peaked at 38. That whole Kentucky team had a down year. That's why you've seen Deion Walker drop down too. It could be reflective of those two prospects. It could. That was supposed to be the two defensive leaders for Kentucky, and they really crapped the bed this year, in my opinion, as a collective unit. Denzel Burke, here's you one, Tim. Ohio State peaked at 21, sitting at 67. See if Denzel Burke is playing today too, guys. And if so, check him out. Cornerback for Ohio State. Oregon got a pretty strong passing game, so that might be a good test. If you don't hear his name all day, that's a good thing, right? Darian Porter from Iowa State at 74. Azarehe, I think I'm saying that right. Azarehe Thomas, cornerback from Florida State in the 75 spot. LSU, Zy Alexander. Here's you another one that's playing today, Tim. Number 97 on the consensus big board at the cornerback position is Davison Igabinazon.
Nice. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Igbinosun. See if he's going to be on the field today. And then, of course, at the 101 spot, you got Dalen Everett, who's going to be playing that Georgia-Notre Dame game. He's sitting in the 101 spot. So look at here. Jabbar Muhammad is going to be playing. He's in the 103 spot. He plays for Oregon. So you've got a bunch of pro prospects going to be playing in this playoff game. You should.
Yeah.
Unless all of them are hurt. I hope not for their sake. But that's going to be a lot of fun.
Maybe we get another secondary player from Oregon. Just like we did in the last draft.
Hey, that NFL pipeline thing, that's a real thing.
It sure
when you
is.
really start to create that, that bond with those coaches and they actually give you accurate information on their prospects and they're not just building them up, that can be a real asset for sure. Yeah. All right, let's see here. Sportskeeda, as Drew says, Sportskeeda says they are not related. There you go. All right, cool. I think we've covered a lot here, man. Again, just wanted to kind of dive into it a little bit and look at the consensus big board and kind of see where everything lies as it sits right now. We had a little bit of time this morning. Tonight, we're going to be talking, obviously, Packers injury report, getting ready for the Bears, all that good stuff. So just wanted to take a little bit of time today and take a peek here. What was the other – we talked O-line too, didn't we, Tim? We got a couple minutes here.
Interior O-line, I would think, right, would probably be your priority.
Yeah, and Twitter says receiver. Of course, Twitter says receiver, but they've got offensive line second. We're going to put the poll question up tonight to ask you guys what your most important offensive position is, okay? Let me write this down real quick before I forget. I apologize for those of you on the pod. It'll take just a second here. So we thought D tackle, and this is according to the poll question, and cornerback are the top need on defense. So I'll put the same poll question up tonight on offense for the YouTube chat so we can vote on that and see what you guys think. It might be receiver, Tim. They may be thinking, hey, let's go get a big name receiver.
Never know.
But
Coach Len in the chat says, look at West Coast players. Packers love those guys. It's true.
I sure do, man.
It's true.
Sure do. Let's take a quick look since we're kind of talking about offensive line. Let's go interior O-line and just see what we got here in terms of today. Tyler Booker for Alabama at 28. Jonah Savania, 34 for Arizona. Donovan Jackson, interior offensive lineman for Ohio State at 45. He peaked at 41. He'll be playing today, obviously. Then you got Tate Ratledge, interior offensive lineman for Georgia at the 91 spot. Look at this, Tim.
Yeah, look at this. Wow.
Jared Wilson. William and Mary Charles Grant at 113. Then at 127, Jared Wilson from Georgia. 128, Dylan Fairchild for Georgia. Georgia's got 3 interior offensive linemen that could potentially be drafted in the top 100 picks. That's insane, man. You want to know why they're so good every year? They build the trenches.
The trenches, yep.
There's a Texas guy at 147 at Jake Majors. So, all right, there you go. All right. Any other position you want to hit, Tim? I think we've covered it pretty good here, man.
I think that's a good start. Interesting. Mm-hmm. We already uncovered some stuff. So, yeah, keep an eye on that Georgia game, especially if you're like me and think we need a potential center here. I think it'd be cool to see how these guys stack up. And
you guys know the quarterback position shapes the draft every single year. You know, Greg Cosell, you're going to hear me quote this 1,000 times this offseason like I always do. Greg Cosell that says there's 2 drafts every April. There's the NFL draft and there's the quarterback draft. Quarterbacks are considered typically 1 tier higher than any other position. Doesn't matter. That's just they're that important. It's that important a position. The way the quarterback draft looks right now is you've got Shedeur Sanders at 1, Cam Ward at 3. Keep in mind, these are the overall rankings, but we're going in order as the quarterbacks are ranking. So Shedeur Sanders, top prospect. Cam Ward from Miami, number 3. Jalen Milroe, 23. He had a bad day yesterday, it sounded like, too. So we'll see what happens there from Bama. Carson Beck with Georgia, although he's not playing today, right? I'm pretty sure they're playing their backup, if I heard correctly. 43rd. Quinn Ewers at 50. The Texas plays today. I think Quinn's healthy right now. Jackson Dart for Ole Miss.
What a name for a quarterback.
Tim, we'll end with Jackson Dart. But, yeah, Jackson Dart, 94. Obviously, Ole Miss is out of it, so he won't be playing. Dylan Gabriel is sitting at the 155 spot for Oregon. He'll be playing today. Riley Leonard at 165. He'll be playing today for Notre Dame. Will Howard at 166. I don't know how young Will Howard is. I don't know if he's draft eligible or not. But you guys, like I said, do your own research on that. Let's talk Jackson Dart. He peaked at 39, right? He's sitting at 94 currently on the consensus big board. I'm going to go ahead and close that big board out and show you this, and we'll wrap up, Tim. So if we go to PFF, I think I've got it. Yeah, I've still got it.
That would be just like Goody, right? We're all screaming for a corner.
Go get a corner.
He goes and grabs a quarterback. Watch.
Listen, if he's willing to do it when Aaron's here and have a guy sit for 3 or 4 years. Again,
you talk about precedents. There's precedents for this, right?
There is. Whether we agree with it or not, there's precedent. Right.
Best time to take one is when you don't need one, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I always point out, everybody acts like the only reason they've done that with Aaron Rodgers because he was, older. No, they did it with Brian Braun when Aaron was young. They took Brian Braun in the second round. Like, if one of these guys falls, you can bet your sweet keister they're going to go get him. All right. All right. So let's see here. I want to show you this. Look at the PFF grades for quarterbacks. Let me see if I can zoom in. Well, let me zoom in. Yeah, here we go a little bit. We know where the rankings are at. I want to show you the grades too. So kind of shooting herself in the foot here. All right. Anyway, Jackson Dart, according to PFF, was the highest graded quarterback in college football this year at a 92.8. Cam Ward from Miami, 92.5. Christian Golov from Purdue, I don't think he's going to be in the draft, 92. Aaron Philo, 91.7 from Georgia Tech. Bo Prabula. God, these names are – what are we going to do, Tim? I'm not going to make it, man. I'm not going to make it. Bo Prabula from Penn State, 91.4. They played yesterday. You could probably go look at his stat line, go watch the tape on him if you want to see it. Bryson Daly from Army at 91.4. Brendan Lewis, 91.9. Shadur Sanders, 91.9, your top prospect right now. People are going, if Jackson Dart is a 92.8 and Shadur Sanders is a 91.1, why is Shadur the top prospect? Because PFF isn't everything. We're going to say it again, all right? Yep. Again, though, I'm looking for all the boxes to be checked. Good PFF grade, good tape, no off-the-field issues, all that stuff, right? The thing about
the sample size, too. Look at the sample sizes between, Dart and Ward and Shadur Sanders,
bingo.
Kyle McCord. Like, you got way more attempts. You've got way better data to base your analysis off as compared to, that Christian Golov and, some of these guys that you're not really seeing a lot out of.
Exactly. So, again, when you look at your top quarterbacks, to me, it looks like this year's draft, it's going to be Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, and Jackson Dart. Those are the three names that are going to be like up there at the top, right? According to PFF, of course. So there you go. All right. That's it. Tim, you got anything else, man? Anything at all, buddy? We hit our mark here. I think we're good.
Happy New Year, brother. It's been a great year. Looking forward to 2025, man. It's gonna be an awesome run.
Yeah. Right back at you, man. Appreciate all your help this year. This was a lot of fun. This was when we started this thing a couple years ago. I didn't know. I thought it might last a month or two, and here we are going on. I think this is year 3. And obviously we got bringing a lot of people along for the ride. Tim, Emilio, Jacob, Carly, everybody. It's been a lot of fun, man. And I know you've been the most consistent. You're in here day in and day out, just talking ball. It doesn't feel like we're doing anything other than just a couple buddies talking ball, and it's been absolutely awesome, man. I appreciate it.
It's been a blessing, man. It really has. And learning together as we go. I love it.
That's the big thing. All right, we are out, guys. We'll be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. We'll look at the injury report, kind of get you guys set as we look ahead to the Chicago Bears. And we're going to lean on the chat a lot as we get into the backside of this year. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what y'all want to talk about. So, Daryl, hey, right there, finally made it to the morning show. LOL, appreciate you, Daryl. We know you're always watching, man. I know the schedule's a little crazy. We appreciate you tuning in. Drew D, Happy New Year's. Go Pack, go. Drew, Happy New Year to you, buddy. Let's see here. Carl K says PTA is the best in 50 years. All right, oh man. All right, been tuning into a lot over the years. Appreciate you, Carl. Appreciate you saying that for sure. We're out. See y'all tonight, everybody.
Hey, let's real quick before we bounce. Let's thank Mike Hebring for the super chat. Thank you very much. Twice.
Yep.
And also shout out to Cannonball John. Some nice words here. Thanks, Clayton and Tim, for making these games today of good value for us. It's true. That was awesome. Little not the deepest of dives, but deep enough that you can watch these games and keep your eye on some of these guys. That was
Here's
awesome.
The thing, man. Put it on the big screen. Put your laptop in your on the table and pull up that consensus big board so you got a quick refresh of, all right, what prospects are we looking at here, right? And a big thank you again, like you said, Tim. Thank you for bringing that up. Mike Hebring with the big dono. Appreciate that, Mike. You're the man. So everybody have a great day. Happy New Year. Get hydrated. Some of you knuckleheads, I know what you did last night. I'm not stupid.
I got the water. Let's go.
Yeah, get hydrated. We'll see y'all tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Have a great day.
And we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.